of the day. Welcome to our AKTU e-lecture series. I, Dr. Vibhuti, Professor and Head, Department of Management Studies, Rajkumar Goyal Institute of Technology, Ghaziabad, will be discussing on the various aspects of employee relations and labor laws. Today, we will be dealing with the lecture 2 of Unit 2. The topic for this lecture is discipline. Now, let us find out what this discipline is and why it is so important to study in case of labor and employee relations. Now, what is discipline? However, the word discipline has been described differently in different aspects. That means, the area where it is. That means, if we are talking of school, the discipline will be described among the students and the teacher. At the same time, when this term it comes in organization, it is between employer and employee. Let us see how do we define definition. According to Richard D. Calhoun, this discipline is the force that prompts individuals or groups to observe rules, regulations, standards and procedures desired and necessary for an organization. Now, let us describe this definition. This definition says that it is necessary for the individuals who are there in the organization to find out what are the rules, regulations, standards, procedures which are required in the organization. That means, there have to be certain do's and don'ts in the organization, what an employee is supposed to do and what he is not supposed to do, so that the entire community of the organization or an industry works in the similar manner. So, according to Megginson, discipline involves the following three things. Now, what are these things? These are self-discipline, orderly behavior and punishment. So, in the organization, because we all know that in organization we have all the mature people. So, the important thing is self-discipline. All the employees in the organization, they should be disciplined themselves. There should not be any force which is saying that this is not required and this type of behavior should be there in the organization. So, it is self-discipline. Second is orderly behavior. Now, when we say orderly behavior means, though we are self-disciplined, but every organization or every industry has its own norms, and these norms are applicable for all the employees who are there in the organization. That means orderly behavior. That means a behavior which is primarily being ordered by the top of the organization. Now, when we say top, it can be management, it can be your superior, it can be your colleague, or it can be anyone who is your team leader. Now, the next area which is covered in discipline is punishment. Now, when we use this term punishment, this is the last area of discipline. Last, why do we say last? It because this area takes place, or this aspect of discipline, it occurs only when the person is not ready to do the thing as per the requirement of the organization. So, at the end, a coercion or a force has to be used so that a person works as per the norms of the organization. Now, when we talk of discipline, it can be in two ways. It can be positive or it can be negative. Now, when we use the term positive and negative, these totally depend upon the type of leadership which we are using or the type of instrument a leader is using. For example, if a leader is using rewards and the leadership is very effective or it is democratic, we call it as positive discipline. For take an example, I require my employees to work. So, what I can do is, if you will work properly, you will get reward in return of it, right. At the same time, we can use negative discipline where we are using warnings, we are using penalties, and we are using other forms of punishment which are negative in their aspect. Now, we can take the example that if we want our employees to work, we can use two things. One, if you are working, you will get the reward, and the second is if you are not working, you will get a punishment or your salary will be cut. So, that means what we are doing is, in the same thing we are using two things. One, if you will do it and if you will not do it. So, on the basis of being done and on the basis of not being done, we use positive and negative term to this discipline. Then we have a very important term which is known as misconduct. So, discipline is a very minute term, but misconduct is a bigger term. Now, this misconduct is related to the act of an employee. Now, let us see what is this misconduct. Basically, it is an act or omission on the part of an employee which is a breach of any duty. Now, the term breach of duty means that a duty or a work has been given to us, but we are not ready to do that thing. Obligation or assignment arising under or flowing from any law or contract of employment or service rules or standing orders, settlements or awards or improper conduct or wrongful behavior is a misconduct. So, there are many things which are being included in it. Now, when I say many things, let us start from the first thing. First thing is breach of any duty, obligation or assignment. That means what is happening? If some work has been given to me, but I am not ready to do that work, that means I either say no or I am lingering that work. That means what I am doing is I will do tomorrow or I will do day after tomorrow. So, what I am doing is I am breaching. So, in case I am breaching my duty or obligation or assignment which is given to me, I am creating an atmosphere of misconduct. Then contract of employment, standing orders, settlement, awards or improper conduct. So, what I am doing is I am not working according to the standing orders, I am not working according to the procedures and the policies of the organization, I am not working as per the requirement. So, my conduct is not proper, it is away, or we can call it an odd man out. So, all the people who are there in the organization, they are working in one manner and I am working in other manner. So, if I am working in other manner which is not acceptable to the organization, we call it as misconduct. Now, what are the different types of misconduct? These misconducts can be minor or they can be major. Now, let us see what are minor misconducts. Minor misconduct is late coming. So, I may be late to the organization, but again, if I am showing such type of behavior on regular basis, this type of misconduct will become a major misconduct. But if I am late for 1 day or 2 days and I have a valid reason for it, for this late coming, we call it as minor misconduct. Then absence from duty without leaves for a period of less than 6 days. So, again this can be a norm of the organization, it can be 6 days, it can be 10 days, it can be 2 days, it can be 1 day. So, there are many organizations who say that if you are absent from your duty without informing us and in case you do not have a leave, you are leave without pay, we call it as a misconduct. So, misconduct when you do not inform the organization. Loitering, gossiping in department during working hours. This is a very common thing. However, this is a very minor misconduct which is easily being taken care by the team leader or by the head of the department. So, it can be there that whenever there is a working time, so instead of working for the organization, what you are doing is you are gossiping, you are creating politics in the organization, or instead of doing a work you are talking to each other. But this is not a very major misconduct. If it comes to the notice of the head of the department or to your superior, he can knock you and he can ask you to stop doing it. Then failure to wear tight clothes, specified uniform. So, when I say कि failure to wear, so what we are doing is that these for example, the clothes which are required or the uniform which is required, you may not be wearing that uniform, it is a minor misconduct. Then negligence of duties or neglect of work. Duties are being given to you, but you are neglecting them because you might be doing these duties tomorrow. So, if you are doing these duties tomorrow, it can be a minor misconduct, but if you are continuously doing this type of misconduct, it becomes a major misconduct, and such type of misconduct may lead to indiscipline in the organization. Then let us see what are major misconducts. Willful insubordination or disobedience of any lawful or reasonable order of a superior. So, intentionally if something is being done in the organization, take for example, your superior, you do not like your superior, you and your superior do not have good relations, right. So, in that case, if your superior is giving any order to you, you may not accept it and you may not obey it. So, if you are willfully or you are intentionally disobeying your superior, then in that case we call it as major misconduct. Going on legal strike or abetting inciting instigation. So, legal strike means there is a situation where you can go for bargaining, or there is a situation where you can sit together and discuss, but still legally you are going on strike, and we all know that strike is never good for, it is neither good for the employer nor it is good for the employee. So, in this case both the parties, they are always as loss. So, if this is the condition, we call it as major misconduct. Then willful slowing down in performance in work or instigation, then theft, fraud or dishonesty in connection with the employer's business or property. So, if you have stolen something or you have created anything or you have done any misbehave in the form of money laundering and all those things, if that is being done, we call it as major, because whenever financial issues are attached or whenever money is attached with anything, in that case it is always a major misconduct. Taking or giving bribes. So, if you give bribes just for promotions and all those things, for example, you wish to have promotion, you have given bribe to your senior. So, in that case both your senior as well as you have created a situation of misconduct in the organization. Absentees without leave. So, you are absent without leave, without information for more than 10 years, for more than 10 days, we call that particular thing as misconduct, and that too major. Then habitual breach of any standing order or any law applicable. So, in both the cases, so if you are breaching of any standing order, that means what is standing order? Standing order is anything which is written at the time of employment. So, if you are breaching, you are not obeying whatever is written in the standing order, in that case also you are creating a situation of major misconduct. Collection without permission of the manager. So, collection without manager, you are collecting the money in the organization and nobody knows that the money is being collected in the organization, and your superior does not know why you are collecting, and there is no written order that the money has to be collected. It is a major misconduct. Then engaging in trade within the premises, that means you are working in the organization, for example, you are working in some FMCG, and at the same time you have started your own distributorship also, or you are working in a manufacturing organization, and at the same time what you have done is you are trying to supply the raw material, and you have started this particular thing on the name of your wife or on the name of your son or on the name of your brother. In that case we will call it as a major misconduct. Drunkenness, riotous, disorderly or indecent behavior on the premises of the establishment. So, all these things, they are included in major misconduct. So, it should be, but we should be very much clear ki what is minor and what is major, because between major and minor there is a very small line. We have taken the example that late coming is a minor misconduct, but if this late coming continues for a longer period of time, that means you are always a late comer, then this word always will automatically convert it into major misconduct. So, do not let, if you do not wish to work in the organization, do not work, but if you wish to work, we should avoid such type of major and minor misconduct, and we should be very much clear that what is going to be against us. Then how does this disciplinary action takes place? What is this? Now when we say disciplinary action, now this we have created, or there is a indiscipline in the organization, this discipline has to be, indiscipline has to be converted into disciplined form. If you are not taking any action from the employer's point of view, if you are not taking any action, the same type of indiscipline will be created in the organization. We can have the very good example of this COVID-19. As we all know that there was a proper lockdown. Now at the time of lockdown, nobody was allowed to move here and there, but as soon as this lockdown opened, and we call it lockdown 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it hardly matters whether it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but everyone is there on the roads because there is no disciplinary action. So if we do not have any disciplinary action, it will automatically lead to what? It will automatically lead to indiscipline on the part of each and everyone who is there, right. So we have to, so as soon as one employee creates indiscipline, we should take the disciplinary action. Now what is this? As soon as we identify that there is an indiscipline and one employee has taken indiscipline, what we should do is, we should automatically issue a charge sheet. We should automatically issue a charge sheet against him, telling him what indiscipline that person has done. So this is a charge sheet. What is charge sheet? Charge sheet is a document which help us in finding out what misconduct or what indiscipline has been taken place in the organization. Then consideration of explanation. See, we all believe we live in a democratic country, so everyone has a right to explain why it has done or why it has happened. So everyone who has, or anyone who has created indiscipline in the organization should be allowed to explain why this indiscipline has taken place in the organization. Next, now depending upon the type of indiscipline being created in the organization or being done by an employee, there should be suspension or inquiry. Anything you can do, or both the things can be done. You can suspend a person and you can arrange an inquiry against him. Next, holding of an inquiry. It should be very much clear that who in the organization is responsible for holding the inquiry, who will be doing it, who will be the part of it. For example, your immediate boss, that means your head of the department will be there, HR manager will be there, and totally depending upon the decision or the system of the organization, it will be identified as who is going to hold the inquiry. Next, finally, when the inquiry is finished, the order for punishment should be given. So who is going to be punished? That is very much clear. The person who is created indiscipline in the organization will be punished, but what type of punishment will be given, why it has been given, what is the intensity of the punishment, all this thing has to be very much clear when the person is being punished and inquiry is being held. Now what are the different types of punishments? Now when we talk of different types of punishments, then we have to see, the first thing is oral punishment. Oral punishment means, the type of punishment means what punishment I as an employer or head of the department or the superior or the team leader is supposed to give totally depends upon the intensity of the punishment. It depends upon the intensity of the indiscipline being conducted. So if the intensity of indiscipline is very high, the punishment has to be severe. If the intensity of indiscipline is not very high, then we can give the oral punishments, or we can give oral warning to them. So the first is oral warning. So for example, if an employee is not keeping his tools in his toolbox properly, in that case there is no need to give him written warning, or there is no need to retrench him, suspend him. It is only an oral warning will work. You can tell the person that kindly keep all the tools in the toolbox properly. Next is written warning. Now written warning is normally given when a person is not listening to your oral warning. So if he is not listening to your oral warning, then you will go for written warning. Disciplinary example of written warning, we have memos. Memos means, for example, employee is coming late and you have warned him, please do not come late, you have to be on time, but still he is coming late. So, in that case you will have to issue a memo, and this memo will be your written warning. Next, disciplinary layoffs and suspension. It totally, we all know what is layoff. Layoff is a temporary removal of employee from the organization. So, you are removing the employee from the organization because of certain reasons. So, we will not be discussing all these things here, but layoff is a temporary removal of employee. Similarly, suspension depends upon the intensity of indiscipline. Demotion in the rank, this is not very common, it is very rare, but it totally depends if you are not properly working at a particular position which is being given to you. For example, you have been promoted to assistant manager or you have been promoted to a manager, but you are not performing all the duties of a manager properly, you are still performing like a assistant manager. So, if you are still performing like an assistant manager, it is better to demote you. So, you are being demoted, your incentives have been reduced or your increments have been reduced only because you are not performing your duties well. Then withholding of increments is again, fines can be issued because this is normally a case when you have broken anything in the organization and you are not listening to the things. Adverse remark in service book, this is normally done in case of government organization because there are service books, and whenever there is a promotion, these service books are being seen. Dismissal and discharge. Now, dismissal and dismissal means dismiss from the organization, and discharge means taking your charge back. Take for example, you are working as a manager and you have been given a charge of production manager also, but because as a manager you were good, but as a production manager you are not good. So, you are being discharged from your duties because you have not performed your duties well. Now, but this type of, I have already told that the type of punishment totally depend upon the intensity of your indiscipline which have been conducted. So, we start with verbal warning which is being given for minor misconduct, and it is normally given by the supervisor only. Then written warning is when the minor misconduct is repeatedly being conducted and it is given by department manager. Then if you repeatedly go for minor or serious or gross misconduct, then transfer, demotion, suspension and dismissal can be done in the organization. Then what is code of discipline? This code of discipline are basically the written statements, because every organization has its own discipline pattern. So, this code of discipline, it tells us the do's and don'ts of the organization. So, whenever you are there in the organization, before you join an organization or on the very first day of joining the organization, you will have the code of discipline which are being placed at different points of the organization. Now, these are certain codes of discipline: maintain harmonious relations, promote industrial peace. These applies to both public and private sector. So, both public sector as well as private sectors, they can have this type of code of discipline. Specifies various obligations for the management. So, what this code of conduct is doing? The first thing they are doing is that they help in maintaining the harmonious relations between employer and employee. Then the second thing is, because if there will be harmonious relation, if there are cordial relation between both the parties of the organization, there will be peace in the industry. Then the both employer, that means the management, and the worker, they should obey these things, they should obey this code of discipline, and its objective is to promote cooperation. So, there should be cooperation, because these management and the employee, these are two pillars of any organization, and if these pillars they do not work properly, the organization cannot work. Maintain peace and order in industry. See, these are the reasons, these are the objectives: to promote constructive criticism at all levels of management and employment. Avoid work stoppage. See, work stoppage takes place normally when? The work stoppage takes place in the organization only when the employer or the management and the employee, they do not get interacted with each other. They do not interact with each other. It secures the settlement of disputes and grievances. So, whenever there are disputes and grievances in the organization, This is because when both the parties or either of the party do not maintain the code of discipline. So, they do not know what has to be done and what has not to be done. So, it has to be very much clear as to what has to be done and what not has to be done, and it is specified in the code of discipline. Avoid litigation. Litigation means putting your fault or putting the fault on others' shoulder. So, instead that whenever take for example, if the productivity is less or if the profit is less in the organization, employee says that it is because of employer, because they are not promoting the organization. But at the same time, if you ask the management, what management will say? They will say that the production is not proper or the quality of product is not properly maintained by the employees, therefore, this is the reason why profit is not going. So, instead of putting the faults on each other's shoulders, it is better that we should try to resolve the problems there and then only, and they can be resolved only when we are very much clear as to what has to be done by us. Next, facilitate a free growth of trade unions. So, it is very easy that trade unions should interfere, because when trade unions are interfering, then only they can let the employees work in the organization properly. So, whatever grievances or whatever problems are there with the employees, at the time the trade unions, they can help the employees in lowering down or reducing those problems. Eliminating all forms of coercion. So, coercion means a threat. So, instead of giving the negative punishment, which we have already discussed, so instead of going for negative punishment, it is better that we should use reward, so that there is always a positive motivation among the employees. So, whenever positive motivation is there in the organization, the employees, they can work properly. But if you are every time you are making them coerce or you are making them fear that your job will be gone, then in that case discipline cannot be maintained properly. So, indiscipline if is there in the organization, it is necessary for us to find out as an employer, it is necessary for an employer to find out why it is happening, and then only the things has to be taken. So, this code of discipline helps us in or helps an organization to find out what warnings can be used, what coercion can be used, what violation of rules can be used, all these things can be done in the organization. Next is a domestic inquiry. Domestic inquiry is an internal hearing. Domestic means internal, that means an inquiry is led on by the organization itself, by the members of the organization or maybe by the members of the department, and in this inquiry employee is able to tell why this particular misconduct or indiscipline has taken place. These are the different principles of domestic inquiry. There should be a rule of natural justice. Now, when we say rule of natural justice, it means that everyone has a right to speak. Then that the delinquent is entitled to just hearing and call of his own evidence, cross examine any witness called by the prosecution, where rules are laid down. So, it is better that we should have the domestic inquiry inside the organization. This is the procedure for domestic inquiry. We should have the charge sheet, then the person should be suspended, and then there should be explanation, there should be notice of inquiry, fact findings, decision service. We have already discussed in discipline procedure. Then there is a red hot stove rule, which really says, it was given by Douglas McGregor, which normally says that when we touch the hot stove, we burn our hand and everyone's hand is been burned. We have a warning. The discipline should be consistent, means we burn our hand today, we will have the same type of burning, tomorrow also we will have the same type of burning, and discipline was impersonal, that means that everyone will be having the same type of inquiry. So, there should be immediate investigation in case of domestic inquiry. Previous warning should also be taken, it should be consistent, that means it should be administered properly, and disciplinary action must be impersonal, that means you should use the same disciplinary action with each and every person of the organization. It should be consistent, that means you should have the same disciplinary actions in the organization. So, this is what is known as domestic inquiry. Domestic inquiry is very common, or it is very similar, or red hot stove is very similar as a person gets a burn in his hand. So, whatever indiscipline is there in the organization, it should be treated like a red hot stove rule only. So, we should not wait or we should not give time for the investigation. As soon as a misconduct or indiscipline has taken place in the organization, an immediate investigation should be there. There should be previous warning, as we have already told that previous warning should be there, and consistency and impersonal. So, this is related with domestic inquiry, indiscipline, discipline, misconduct, and then we have a red hot stove rule. So, thank you very much.